Welcome back to another episode of The Story, the podcast where we remind you that regardless of where you are the writer, the producer, and the director of your own story. And regardless of the mistakes that you've made in the past or where you might find yourself today, you can always take control of that narrative and take control of the story. And today we have an incredible guest. Super excited to have him. We've got Jeff Dragovich from Fairway Mortgage, one of the 1%ers in Las Vegas for mortgage, real estate in general, and somebody that I admire deeply because of not only what he's taught me, but also because of the story that you have. So first of all, bro, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, so let's just jump right in, man. Let's start really where you grew up. When were you born and where did you grow up?
So I was born in Fountain Valley, California. So I'm from Orange County, California. So I grew up in Westminster, California, but I was born in Fountain Valley, California. I was born April 18th, 1981. So that makes me 43.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. And you spent most of your life out in California then?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Growing up, did you have, was it a good familial relationship? Do you come from money? Is it what?
Nah, bro.
No?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up.
Everybody's always like, because I always just say like I'm from Huntington Beach because like Westminster is on the border of Huntington Beach, and they're like, oh, your parents must be rich. I'm like, no, I'm from the hood, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's me and my parents, my mom, my dad, my brother Adam. They're still married. I had a great childhood. Grew up playing sports.
Okay. No kidding.
Parents were always involved.
Which sports did you play?
I played baseball and football.
For high school?
Yeah.
Which high school?
Fountain Valley High School.
Okay, fantastic. So you got your roots in the local community.
Yeah, I got my old helmet right there, Fountain Valley Barons.
You still have the helmet?
I did. I didn't give it back.
Did that period in your life do a lot for you as far as memories, discipline? Like what made you want to keep the helmet after all these years?
I came up playing football. Like I played junior All-American football. So like I started, I don't even know, I was like a little kid that the parents had to be on the football field, right? So I played all the way through junior All-American. There came a point, I want to say maybe I was like 11, 12, 13, where I like decided I didn't want to play football anymore. And so I remember I just quit, and that was like a big deal for my dad because I started a sport, I didn't play it, and then I remember my dad always telling me like, "You're never gonna play football again." And I was like, "Hold my bear, dude." You know what I'm saying? So I made it a mission so that I went and played football my freshman year to make the team football. Okay. But like, it's a team sport. You know what I'm saying? Like you learn life lessons playing a team sport, right? There's no I in team.
What do you think was some of the biggest takeaways as far as the lessons that you learned playing football?
Lessons like. I still talk to my friends, like my best friend that I played football with my entire life.
No kidding.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, my best friend Nick Heinley, like I met him in kindergarten. He's still my boy. Still talk every day.
And you guys played football together?
Yeah.
What position did he play?
He was really good, dude. He played defensive end.
What about you?
I played offensive line.
Okay.
I played guard and tackle.
Which one's more important?
I guarded the bench and tackled anybody who came near
it. Which one's more important, offense or defense?
It depends on your scheme, brother.
Yeah.
Defense, what do they say? Defense wins championships, but you got to be able to score.
True.
Yeah.
True. Okay, so let's talk about your family life. You said that you didn't have a really tough upbringing, and obviously...
I wouldn't say I didn't have a tough upbringing. You know, I mean, my parents were going through their shit. You know what I'm saying?
Explain that to me.
They just were trying to do the best that they could do. You know, my dad was like in and out of work from what I can remember. My mom's an entrepreneur. She's a hairstylist. So like I had a barbershop in my garage as a kid. You know, so I'd have people coming in and out. My mom was always hustling. My dad suffered with addiction. So it was like just a lot of like button of the heads.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, for sure.
And so what did your dad do? What did he do as a career?
He was just a 9-to-5 dude. I remember he worked at this place called Kraus Sofa Factory. So he was like I couldn't even tell you what he did. I know something in management, but he's just a 9-to-5 guy. Get up every morning, go to work, come home.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And then your mom was basically entrepreneuring, being a hairstylist out of the garage. So you saw a ton of people coming in and out, and you saw her working her ass off.
Always. She's always cutting hair in the garage.
Do you think that that's where you got your hustle from?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm a lot like my mom. My mom's a go-getter. Like, go handle the business. Like, let's go figure it out. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I would say it came from my mom. Okay. My mom, like growing up, it didn't matter. She's always hustling. Like we didn't come from money. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, like my grandma, Pauline. She lived in Fountain Valley. That's how I ended up being able to go to Fountain Valley High School. So I spent a lot of time over there because I was supposed to go to Westminster High School, and I had to do like they called it an inter-district transfer, which was like a big deal because like where I grew up in Westminster, like there weren't a lot of white kids. It was primarily Little Saigon, so Asians, and they said I wasn't able to transfer. So my mom went and protested Westminster High School, and the reason that they let me go is I had to take an elective that Westminster High School didn't have, so I had to be in choir all 4 years of high school.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I'm a choir boy too. Dude.
Nice,
That's
dude.
hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you like choir?
Oh, I loved choir, bro.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
What about it?
I loved, well, one, I could figure I could sing. I don't know if I could sing anymore, but I was like, I was so young. I was like a first tenor. So I was like, la, 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 la.
You're all up there.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that, dude. That's great.
Yeah. And then like community, right? Like I was in concert choir, Baron choir. So I was like all boy choir, concert choir. Like I found out I can sing. I got to go to like, they called it the troubadours, which was like the top of the top, like super competitive. Yeah. And also to like the choir teacher, Mr. Reed, he was really, really, really good. But dude, like,
you remember that dude's name?
Yeah. I was the only person he gave a C to in choir because he said I wouldn't sit up straight.
That was it? That was the whole reason?
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk to him since you graduated?
Yeah, I sometimes I hit him up on social media, say what's up.
Yeah.
He's retired.
That's pretty rad, man.
Yeah.
That's
He was a good choir teacher. Like he taught like the fundamentals of like singing and like how to breathe and like the way that at least for me, like how he taught it was like it really, I understood how to sing at a high level.
I see. Did you ever go to like state championships or any sort of state competitions for choir?
I could have. It was hard. Like once I got like my sophomore, like going into my junior year, it was tougher because like I was like all focused on football and baseball, and then these guys were traveling all over the place. So like it was hard to do the time commitment.
Well, on the football side, did you do the same question? Did you do state championships or any sort of competitions for football?
Yeah, we were Division I, so we like literally played at the highest level. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, we were in the Sunset League, which was like all the top, like Huntington Beach, Edison, like Marina, Esperanza. Like when I went to school, those were like the top schools. So we'd have like 10, 15,000 people show up to a game.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And you're in high school.
Yeah.
What did that feel like walking out onto the field with that many people in the stands?
Dude. So like, Fountain Valley, and then our rival school is Edison High School, and that was like the biggest. So when I was going there, it was like the biggest rivalry in the United States. Like when Edison, we played for this bell, this like huge, gigantic bell, and if you won, you won this bell, right? And so we played Orange Coast College, so there'd be like 30,000 people there. It was crazy. I remember,
that's nuts.
Yeah, dude. I remember like the boosters that my senior year, they did like terrible towels, like white ones, I remember like walking out on the field, and they're like, I was like, what? It was crazy.
Just a sea of towels in the stands.
Insane. Yeah.
That's wild, man. Yeah, the UNLV does kind of the same thing with UNR for the cannon. They do like a cannonball.
Yeah.
What was the significance behind the bell? Do you know?
To be honest, I have no idea. They've been doing the battle for the bell since like. My dad went to Fountain Valley High School. He was like the first graduating class in like the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they still fight for that bell?
Yeah, but it's not like, I guess, I don't pay too much attention, but I guess like in Orange County, like they section everything off. So you have these big schools where like you have people over here coming to Fountain Valley, people over here coming to Fountain Valley, and they closed it off. So like it's not as competitive anymore. Like ever since I left Fountain Valley, like we were like a big time football school. Like it's not as competitive. I say Edison, different story, bro. Edison, those dudes are still like always like ranked nationally. You have like modern day Edison, they're always one or two. Bishop Gorman, right? Yeah. So they're always at the top of the top.
I see. So you got those old uncles that are like, I used to play on that team.
Bro, that's why like so my cousin Jim, he went to Edison High School. It was like a big thing because I spent a lot, like I wouldn't say like I had a horrible childhood. I had a great childhood. I wouldn't change anything, but there was a lot of turmoil. Like I was, a lot of like my parents fighting all the time and like boxing each other up, calling the cops. I had to call my cousin Jim. He'd come meet me at 7-Eleven, take me to his house. Like, so, cause I never like wanted to be, never liked to be in that chaos. I just wanted to like disassociate myself from that. So as a kid, I just would like make a phone call, be like, hey, come get me. So like growing up with him, like I really bonded with him, and he was older. So when I was 16, 17 years old, he was like probably like in his mid 20s. You know what I'm saying? So, but he went to Edison High School for sure. So it was like a big rivalry that I went to Fountain Valley. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I went.
Oh, gotcha, man. Yeah. That's rad. So after you graduate high school, do you go to further school or do you get in the workforce? What's the story?
Good question. So I thought I wanted to go to school. I don't know. I was young. I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? So I went to Golden West College. real quickly learned that college is not for me, right?
What proved that to you?
I just, when you find out you don't have to go, right?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. Well,
And you're not paying for it. Like
Exactly.
my mom's busting her ass to struggle to pay for this. Like she's putting my college courses on credit cards because her son wants to go to, and I'm just like being a fuck off. I wouldn't even go, wouldn't even show up. You know what I'm saying? So like, that was not for me.
Nah, dude, I totally get it. When I went up to UNR, like I said, my dad is a retired cop. So growing up, he was super strict. And so when I go to UNR, I go from not being able to go out with my friends to the movies, not being able to go hang out at people's houses, to utter freedom. And like you said, somebody else is paying the tab.
Yeah.
You know, I started getting into weed. I started getting into all that shit. And so for me, every single class was spent in my truck with a group of friends just smoking pot. And it was like, it was a $15,000 party, man. That's all it was, dude, for 3 months. So yeah, no, I get it. I really do.
And then like showing up, you just like don't even know what's going on. You're like, what am I doing? I'm just here to like hang out with some girls or something.
Yeah, exactly, man. There was this chick that because when I was going to school, they had these little like, it looked like a calculator basically, and it was the professor's way of telling whether or not you were in the class, because she would pop questions up on the board and you would put the answers into your little calculator and it would send it. I'd give mine to some chick and be like, "Hey, go, you know, just put the same answers in or whatever," so that way my dad wasn't his radar wasn't up. But yeah, man, I got myself in trouble back there. So I get it. I definitely do. So after you figure out that college isn't for you, do you jump into the workforce? What do you do?
Yeah, I jumped around from. Listen, I lived in Orange County, California. I live by the beach, so I was trying to like have a good time and party and be with my friends and you know, get a job and make enough money. Like, I mean, I lived with my parents for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I never moved out because they never had me, or I'd live with my grandma. Like was doing everything I could do to just have a good time.
I see.
Yeah.
I got you, man. And it was easy to get distracted, especially in those situations.
For sure.
So I want to talk about a little bit about something that you had shared with me, and something that I think that a lot of people fall victim to, especially when they find themselves in situations where there's a lot of freedom. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of freedom to not have to worry about bills getting paid, not have to worry about whether or not your landlord's going to kick you out. And even in situations where that's not the case, people fall victim to addiction. And you said that your dad was a victim of addiction. Which addiction was that?
To be honest, like it's like the family secret. Like my family has, like on both sides of my mom and my dad's side, they all have addiction. But it's not something that was like talked about, but you knew it was there.
Why do you think people don't talk about that kind of stuff?
Because I think that like they came from that generation. Like my grandma, I love my grandma. I got her tattoo on my arm, right? My grandma Pauline. But like that generation didn't talk about that stuff. You just keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't. I mean, I'm sure there was AA and A. Like what I'm trying to say is like they just it was just like push that over there. We'll handle that later, right? Like I don't want to face that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always like both sides of my family is like, there's always been addiction, a lot of drinking. I mean, I think my dad did like meth and stuff like that. Like the funny part is like growing up, like we used to spend a lot of time with my aunts, right? We would like, my parents like to they like to gamble. So they like to play cards. We were always like at my aunt's house. And so I was hanging out with my cousins all the time. And then like, I remember like being like young and like my dad was just like, dude, let's go mow the lawn at like 6:30 at night. I was like, this is cool, bro. Or like he'd be out he had his Suzuki Samurai and he'd be out there like wiring all his fucking stuff up. I'm like, what is going on? Okay, like go out there and hang out with him and stuff like that. And I think he was doing meth at that time.
Yeah, but you have no idea. I mean,
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I do know because he like I had been sober for a minute and he came clean that he was taking pills, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but my whole family, like, that's how I kind of got wrapped into that. Like, I'll tell you, the first time I remember sitting, so I'd spend the night at my grandma's all the time, just because like I could go to my grandma's and like, it was just me and my grandma and I could do whatever I want. Sit there, watch TV, she had a pool, like hang out, call some girls, right? Mm-hmm. I could go over there whenever I wanted, right? And like, I remember we would like on the weekends, so you had my grandma and then, so she had, my two aunts lived with her. They were both divorced. Like my one aunt lived in the garage, like they made the garage into a room. And then my other aunt lived upstairs, right? And so they always like the kitchen was like the communal area where they would hang out.
Yeah.
Right. And then you got my dad, and then you got my dad's brother. And I remember my dad's brother coming over, right? Because they didn't live anywhere close to us, a couple hours away. So they'd come visit, right? And I remember sitting there at the table because I just wanted to be like one of the adults. I just wanted to be part, like you just sit there and talk and you're having a good time. We play dominoes, play cards and stuff like that. And I remember him talking about like how he got this medication that was called Vicodin that made him feel good. And I was like, oh, I'll maybe try that. Like I like in high school, I did all the same high school stuff. I wasn't big into drugs. I smoked pot. Wasn't for me. I did a lot of drinking. You know what I'm saying? But I like to have a good time. You know what I'm saying? So I think listening to that, I was like, oh, I want to try that. And then I remember like his like little bags over there with all his pills in it. And I waited for him to go to bed. I took one and I was like, oh shit, this is awesome.
How old were you at this time?
Dude, I probably was like 17, 18. I was for sure out of high school because I didn't really start experimenting with like pills until I want to say in like my early 20s. I don't have the best timeline on that, but I would say probably my early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it felt like?
Yeah. It
What
was like
did it feel like?
it was. They say it felt like an angel was coming in my veins. Like it's
yeah,
like,
that crazy.
That's
huh?
yeah. It like for me, it just was for me. It made me feel good. It made me feel powerful. It made me feel like I was the man. Mm-hmm. I just felt good. I felt like I was like the life of the party. I could do whatever I wanted. Like that's how it started.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So after that first pill, how long until you started trying to source it yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think I want to say probably like I would just like so my grandpa lived there. My grandma, they all had pills.
Okay.
I would steal all their pills. And
they never asked you about missing stuff? I mean,
at the time, you no, they wouldn't for sure. But I would, Mom wasn't taking all of their pills, but I would, they'd have a huge bottle of like Vicodin, you know what I'm saying, with like 100 in there.
Yeah.
You take 10 of them.
They're not going to.
Because it wasn't like an everyday thing. Like I just know I liked taking it. It made me feel chill. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that was like stealing their pills. They never said anything. You know what I'm saying? But like where it really started, I remember I got this job in lending, which was crazy. This was a long, long time ago. The company is called like Net Rate One. I remember seeing just an article in the paper. They're like, hey, we need call center people. And it was for a mortgage company. And I remember going there and I like to connect with people. I just like I connect with you, right? Like I just naturally connect with people. And then I remember like being part of the group and like, I don't even know what I was doing for work, right? And then I remember them like, hey, they're taking pills. And I'm like, oh, I want to. And I remember like being able to access the pills and like being able to take the pills. Like I'd take like 2 at a time and I'd be like, whoa, this is crazy. And sit in an office meeting and just feel like, nice, right?
Were you still like high functioning when?
Yeah, I mean, if you asked other people, I don't want to say they're high functioning. I was always, dude, like nobody, when I like really came to grips that I was an addict and I told my parents, like they were like, what?
So it was a surprise to a lot of the people close to you.
Always. I could always pull it off. Nobody ever fucking knew. That's why I like to do pills.
Yeah.
Because and then also at the same time, like pills, like I'm like, this is like kind of I think I had a Motorola Razor, you know what I'm saying? Or you still had to go on a computer and like you could type in white pill with whatever on it and it would tell me what it was. And so I was like in my head, oh, that's safe.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And back then, I feel like it wasn't as dangerous, but I mean, you're still fucking around with some dangerous shit.
Bro, when you're that age, like you think you're invincible. You don't think about, am I going to kill myself? What does my life look like in 10 years?
Yeah.
I was very selfish and I just wanted to have a good time and I know those made me feel good.
Did you ever have any friends that you surrounded yourself with that were doing the same shit?
Yeah. The funny part, I still kept my same group of friends. Like I have the same group of friends that I grew up with from like middle school and we still talk to each other and I still travel in that circle. Nobody ever knew, but I also would connect with people because listen, you got to be able to like make connections and like wheel and deal on there to like figure out who to get the pills from, right? So I wouldn't say these people were like my friends, but these were people like I knew that would get me what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? And then it goes from taking 2 pills And then it goes from working and making money and, you know, buying pills. And then this dude connects you. I wasn't stupid. I'm like, why am I buying it from this dude when he's charging me more when I could figure out how to get it to this dude? So I was always trying to like figure out how to get to the source. And then you get to the source. And then this dude's like, hey, bro, here's I would get a bottle of 500 Vicodin, Norcos, the little yellow ones.
Yeah.
And he would front it to me. He would I'd have no idea how he had this hookup, but they would have cases of pills. Like he literally pulled, here you go.
What was the street value of something that big?
I think he was charging me like $500 or probably like $500 for a bottle of pills. So maybe $750. I at that point, it got to the point where I was just stealing money to support my habit. Like I would steal money from my grandma. Like my mom was notorious for like hiding money around the house, and I'd find it. And I wouldn't say anything. They never say anything, right? She knew I was taking it.
You know but she's not going to rat on her son or her
for
grandson.
sure. I think she just didn't even know what to do at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's doing the best because she still struggles with that right now. Like, I never knew, and why do you do that? And like, it's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, at what point did you realize it was a problem?
Probably like in my early 20s when I bounced around these mortgage jobs. Like back then you didn't have to be licensed. Again, this is in Orange County, like Irvine, California. That's like the mecca back in the day for mortgage lenders, right? You could literally go get a job anywhere. You work some lending tree leads, like you make some phone calls and you talk to people, right? Super unregulated. So I was doing that, and I was jumping around mortgage companies, like making it work. And then I did that too because I knew I could just make enough money to like buy whatever I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like 97% of my check went to buying drugs because like I had a car, I didn't have a car payment. My parents bought that for me. I lived with my parents, right? And so I remember getting to a point where I was taking 10 Norcos at a time, like 4 or 5 times a day. Yeah.
So you were going through one of those bottles in a week?
For sure.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer than a week, but yeah.
Did you feel any sort of like side effects or anything like that? Or do you think that you just...
Like side effects of like being sick?
Like negative side effects of taking that much?
No. Yeah, they say like your kidneys and your liver, like it's really bad for your liver. Like,
you don't really feel that though.
Yeah, not for me. Like I was good. I thought I was a functioning drug addict. Nobody knew that I was on drugs, which I had a long-time girlfriend. Like she had said stuff before, and there was whispers, and people would say, "Hey, don't hang out with him because he does pills or whatever." I'm a sales dude.
Yeah.
I'll gaslight you. I'll make you feel like you're crazy when you're questioning me.
Yeah.
Or is that gaslighting? Gaslighting?
No, gaslighting. You're right. You're right. Yeah, you make people believe something.
I'd flip it because I always had the ability to just like flip it, right? Like you're gonna ask me, and I'd make you feel crazy. Right?
Yeah.
And then they just dropped it because I think like my parents come from that generation where you just don't talk about addiction.
Yeah. And
right?
Because you don't talk about it, you don't know that in those situations you're going to manifest that manipulation in order to keep.
For sure. And then the manipulation just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And next thing you know, you're like embezzling money over here, and you're pulling money out of an account, and you're like taking money over here and writing checks over here and go like, dude, I did gnarly stuff, bro. Like I freaking would like go like I would go to the bank, I would steal a check from my grandma, I'd sign her name, I'd go to the bank, and then I knew, because I did it before because it worked, I'd go to the bank. Before I left my grandma's house, I would take her phone off the hook so it wouldn't ring, because they were going to call her and verify that this check was from her. She wouldn't, they wouldn't pick up. Okay, here you go. Here's $700.
And then they would just cash it right there.
Yeah. So I was always manipulating. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
So once you're at the peak of that addiction, I mean, you're talking about taking 500 pills close to a week.
Bro, it went from, because it gets too expensive.
Yeah.
And then like next thing you know, you're in debt with this drug dealer who you're like kind of like befriended. Like I did this dude's mortgage to buy his house.
Jesus.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, this was, I think I told my parents, I mean, I was probably like 24, 25 when I was just like, dude, I'm a freaking addict. Like I need help. I remember telling my dad. He's like, all right. And then I told my mom, and then like, so by this time my mom's like grown. So my mom owns hair salons in like assisted living homes, like high end people like with like dementia. And so she had, you know, businesses all over. She's like one of the top people in Southern California, San Diego. Like she has shops everywhere, right? So she's doing well. So she basically leveraged a relationship that she had. Like she was one of her people that were in her, that she cut her hair. She knew that their family owned a rehab, which rehab was like 10 grand.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm assuming she paid something, but like they did her a favor and let me go to rehab.
Where did you go to rehab?
Newport Beach.
How was that?
I mean, I just did what I needed to do to go and not get in trouble. I mean, I was like, sure, let's go to rehab.
But
I mean, at that point though, like it went from pills, because everything was so easy to get. Like I was never a doctor shopper. I mean, I came to a point where I did that, but I wasn't like people would go to doctors and get scripts. You know what I'm saying? I just would buy them from people, so they're always expensive. But it went from Vicodin, it went to OxyContin, where I could buy an OxyContin, like an 80 milligram OxyContin pill, cut it in half, and be good all day. But this was only $80, and I'm spending like $3 a pill over here. You know what I'm saying? So it just transitioned into like doing even more powerful opioids, right?
Yeah.
And then one pill turns into two pills turns into 4 pills. I got to a point where it was like 8 pills a day, $80 a day. Like, Brian, I'm not making like money like that. I was fucking stealing money and doing what I needed to do so that I could stay high and not get sick. Then came a point like I don't know. I always just like try to like figure out like how can I get through this without anybody knowing. And so I remember Googling like how can I get sober without, because like that's like a big thing for an addict. Like you're like if I stop, I'm gonna get sick. Which to be fair, like withdrawal sucks. It's not the worst thing in the world. You're not gonna die. You're gonna feel like you had the flu for 7 weeks, and you're gonna like be in a very bad mood. But if you just take it one day at a time, you're good in the next 7 to 10 days, right? For whatever reason, I was scared to do that. I was scared to go through that. You know what I'm saying? And so I figured out that I could there's a drug called Suboxone, which was like a new drug at the time, which it's methadone, right? And you go to a doctor in California, only certain doctors, they could only have so many patients. So like I figured out, because I had insurance at the time, like what doctor would allow me to go there. I made an appointment. I went there. I like go give this dude this sob story of how I'm trying to get sober and I need help. This motherfucker gave me like 90 Suboxone. It's like a film that you put on your tongue, and when you take it, you don't get sick. It's to get clean. Like so, basically, they call it medical assisted treatment, right? Where you try to get sober and you're using medication to get sober, right? Mm-hmm. And so Suboxone, methadone, those are all medication that you could use where you take it every day. It tells your body that you're giving yourself opioids, but it's not making you feel high. And you can go about living your life, right? Mm-hmm. So I went from like, okay, I can't afford to do this all the time because it's too expensive, right? I'm going to end up in fucking jail. And then I would get Suboxone, and then I could like just take Suboxone and then use whenever I wanted. So it was like this like weird cycle of like just trying to figure it out. If that makes sense. Yeah.
So when you went to rehab, is the Suboxone after you started going to rehab?
No, dude, I remember I would not go to rehab. I would not go there. I remember like being a dick to my mom and my girlfriend at the time. Like I would not go there until you took me to my doctor, and I'm like, I'm not going until you get me an appointment, and I'm gonna go get Suboxone. And I remember my mom going with me, and she's just like, what the F is like, what is this? Like, what are you doing? Like, because she was tripping, because she was like, my mom's like, dude, if you're gonna quit.
Yeah.
Don't do it anymore. Right? And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't go to rehab for 30 days. I'm gonna be sick. It's gonna be the worst thing. And then like I remember the doctor, like he had me taking like 3 a day. Right?
The Suboxone.
Yeah. And my mom's like, no, he's not doing that. So he's like, all right, you can have 10. I'm like, I'm not going to rehab without the Suboxone. So like same thing, gaslighted her into allowing me to do what I want to do so I go to rehab. And then you go to rehab and like, they just give you the medication based on this person. That's a lot, dude. 3 a day. Yeah. And then like you go to the rehab, and then like, listen, I knew I didn't want to be a drug addict, but like I didn't really care. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I was still selfish. I was just still thinking about myself. So like you're in there all bored, right? Doing like meetings, and they take you to the beach and you go to AA meetings, and I'm like, I don't need this shit. What am I even doing here? Right? I'm just doing this because my mom wants me to go here. Then like you have a lady that every day you go get your medication, they give it to you, right? And they're supposed to like, you put it on your tongue and you got to like look, and I'd be like, I'd take it off. I'd save it till the night, and I'd take, because if you take 3 Suboxone, you get high.
No shit.
Yeah.
So you were still trying to find ways to satisfy it while you were in rehab.
For sure.
Do you think
but it was different with Suboxone, because like it wasn't like you take a pill and I'm feeling sick. Like I'm just like loading myself up with so much medication. Like I feel like I'm like, oh, I kind of feel high a little bit.
You feel something.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's pretty common in rehab for other people? Like, do they usually try to save that kind of stuff so that way?
Yeah. If I did it, everybody else is doing it.
I gotcha.
Right.
I gotcha. Why do you think so many people struggle with that first leg, that first 2 weeks? Because there's a pretty high dropout rate in rehab, or there's a pretty high rate of relapse.
Yeah.
Especially within that first month. Why do you think people struggle with this so much?
Because they don't want to do the work. They don't really want to get sober. Like as much as you want to help me, you're not going to help me until I want to help myself. Right? Until I'm ready to actually do the work to get sober. It doesn't matter who you are. You could sit there and go to all the meetings, but does that mean that person's going to stay sober? Probably not, until that person has decided to make a choice to get sober. I'm a case example of it. Like I was like, I don't need rehab. I don't need to do this. Like it just was like this like progression, doing crazy amount of drugs, not doing drugs all the time. Like moving here, dude. Like we live in a crazy town, bro. You could literally buy heroin off Craigslist. Mm-hmm. Like going back to like,
we're not advocating for that, by the way. We're not
I don't think you could. Is the Craigslist even a thing anymore?
It is, but it's just it's a weird gray market of shit.
Like I remember watching. Had a job here, and I wasn't using it all the time. And like I just was one day, I was like, I'm gonna get high. And I remember like I was working and watching this like Netflix documentary about this dude's his brother passed away, and he's like showing about he did pills, and he's like, oh, you can type in Roxy board shorts size 30, so that's a roxycodone 30 milligrams. I was like, oh really, dude, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I literally went on Craigslist. I was like, there's an email. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, thinking like I might go to jail. This dude calls me, hey, what's up, can you bring me? Yeah, no worries. Where do you oh, I'm like, I have a Regis office of Town Center. Will you come meet me? Sure. And I'm like, dude, this is gonna get crazy.
Delivered.
This is gonna get crazy. Like I'm either going to jail or I'm gonna get high.
Yeah, it's either a sting or it's a legit shit.
Think about how crazy that is. That I was willing to accept that. Like I had kids, bro.
Yeah.
I had a wife, right?
Yeah.
That I just was like that desire to get high was so strong that I was willing to take a chance to possibly get busted by a cop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, if you're a cop, you have to tell me, ha 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 ha. Like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude showed up, gave me drugs. Okay, that's a start, right? And then I get back on this fucking train that's just heading me to just a bunch of shit, right? Because like I'm married, I have kids, we have the same bank account. Like I'm gonna take money out, my wife's gonna see, she's gonna be mad at me. Like, and then you get to a point where like it progresses, and then you find out, oh, I literally could buy heroin off the same spot.
Yeah.
There's a dude here in town. Literally, I found him off Craigslist. You call him. He works from 9 a.m. to 5. Don't call him after 5 because he's not working. Like a real job, right? He will come deliver you heroin, like to the office, whatever you want. He pulls up in a car with blacked out windows. He pulls the window down. You give him money. He gives you little balloons.
Get the fuck out of here.
Swear to God, bro. 9 to 5, Monday through Sunday. So you better, if you're gonna get high, right, and doing drugs, you better make sure you have enough from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. Because they're not gonna pick up. That's how wild is that?
That's wild, man. So then let me ask you a personal question, man. How, with the ease of access that people have to this, I'm imagining that you've had these conversations with your children as far as how to navigate some of this shit, because it sounds like the way that you talk about it, like we never talked about it. It was something that you swept under the rug. I would, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would venture to say that you're trying to stop generational curses by addressing that shit earlier rather than later. First of all, dude, how are you addressing that conversation for people that are, familiar with that and don't know how to really address that with their kids? and how to address that with their spouse. How are you addressing those conversations to make sure that you prepare them for that? Because otherwise it's gonna be like what happened to me, right? You get smacked with this culture shock of,
Yep.
holy fuck, I'm surrounded by all of this influence, all of these things, and it's the pick of the litter at that point. Like, with the ease of access, with how crazy things are getting with the fentanyl crisis, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. How are you managing these conversations with your kids?
Dude, good question. One, those conversations are super gnarly, and I've spent a lot of time and I've talked to a lot of people on like, what is the right thing to do? And like I've had conversations, like for example, this is one of my agents that I work with. Her son OD'd on opioids, heroin. I sat down with her, I did a meeting with her, like, and I didn't know this, and like this is the conversation we had, and like sitting there talking, is she just wishes she was more open with her kids and would have talked about it. My buddy Chad Lubin, who's a recovering addict, we have three daughters. I have three daughters, right? Like my oldest is 16, my son's 16 too, right? Like they're going to experiment. You got to have these conversations. If you're going to experiment with something, I can't stop you from doing that. If it's not coming from mom and dad, it should not be taken. Like, for example, I just read an article, so Arizona is a border town. Mm-hmm. My buddy Brock, he has a charity called the Fentanyl Project, where he goes out and he helps with harm reduction, right? So he's out there giving out NARCAN to save people.
Can you do me a favor before we jump too deep? For the people that don't know, that are watching, what is NARCAN?
So NARCAN is a drug that you can, so like if let's say I got fentanyl and I was gonna OD, you just spray it in your nose, and it like knocks the opioids off your receptors and it brings you back to life.
No shit.
Yeah. So like harm production is you're going and you're giving out NARCAN to stop people from dying. You know what I'm saying? So like nowadays they say if you're gonna use with a friend, right? Just because the fentanyl's so bad. But where I was going with this is they seized a bunch of fentanyl coming from Arizona that were stamped just in regular Tylenol bottles. Yeah.
They looked like Tylenol.
This is crazy. He told me that 60% of deaths happen in the household by accident from fentanyl.
Dude, so they're not even, some of these people that are dying aren't even trying to take opioids.
Correct.
Jesus.
I would probably say 90% of people that are dying, fentanyl's in everything. Weed, cocaine. Like, I've just been trying to be conscious with my kids. Like, it's tough for me to have these conversations. I'm just being open and honest about dad and my struggles on what I did. Like, I'm very, very grateful that the universe told me, hey, it's time to stop. And that gave me the willpower to make a choice. Because I just was always like, do some drugs, not do some drugs. Like, I can hide it, whatever. There just came a point where, like, I didn't want to die, right? Because, like, I basically OD'd in front of my kids. I mean, like, I remember I was working. I came home one day. I stopped. I bought an oxycodone pill that I thought. I cut it in half. I got home because my wife was working, and dude, I was out. And I remember waking up and my kids were right there, dude. And it was like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm lucky that I even woke up, right? Lucky for me, I wasn't one of the people that were like super receptive to just a little bit of fentanyl, because I would be dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what I'm saying is, like, I'm just so blessed that because I stopped when I stopped. Because if I was to continue to do drugs the way that I did drugs, I would take drugs for anybody. And if it was a pill and I could Google it and I knew what it was safe. I literally would be dead, right? So, like, having those conversations with the kids, the conversations need to be had. Everybody needs to know about the dangers of fentanyl and what's in the fentanyl. And I believe, this is just my opinion, I believe everybody should be educated on NARCAN. Everybody should be educated on what an overdose is. Everybody should be educated on being able to, help with harm reduction. Like, for example, like my kids are getting ready to drive. I have NARCAN in my car. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know, like, who you run into. Maybe they're hanging out or they're with their friends, and one of their friends takes a pill that has fentanyl in it, and they die in my car. That's not happening. So my kids, I feel that I've had enough conversations with them that they understand how crazy that is, right? Like, hey man, your dad comes from addiction. Like my wife struggled with addiction too, right? When she was younger, like it's in your DNA, right? It's in there. So I need you to just understand that if you're going to make that choice, you're making a choice between life and death. And if you do make that choice, I'm going to give you the tools, right? To help you. So like, I just feel like everybody, like Narcan should be in your purse. My wife carries Narcan, right? I think Narcan should be in the car. I typically have, there's a website called endoverdose.net where anybody could go on the website. They have you take a little test that's with videos and you answer questions like it's like, what is fentanyl? How can you tell if somebody's ODing from fentanyl? How do you use Narcan, right? And then at the end of it, they will send you Narcan to keep in your house.
For free?
For free. I mean, you have to pay shipping. It's like $3.
Okay, so for $3 you get to save.
Yeah, so they sent Narcan, and then also too, they send drug like fentanyl testing kits, which is huge too. Like where you can, if you are going to use, you take out this little, you put some fentanyl, you put whatever your drug on it, and it makes sure it's not a lethal dose of fentanyl.
Jesus Christ! How do you know what the lethal dose is?
Like they say, like a grain of sand.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like fentanyl's like 1 million times, some crazy. I don't know the stat, but it's like so powerful. Like literally 1 grain of fentanyl could kill you.
Good God. Man.
And it doesn't discriminate. I saw a statistic. Where did I see it? It said that in the next 5 to 7 years, every person in America will have experienced an immediate or non-immediate family death from fentanyl. It's already happened to me within the last year.
Can you go into that?
Yeah, we had a family member get found in her car, dead, and they found pills. So, willing or not willing, I'm sure she didn't take a pill thinking she was gonna not wake up. It's heavy stuff, dude. It's crazy. Nobody's talking about it.
Why?
I don't know, man. That's a good question. Maybe people are afraid to talk about it.
Because like I'm not
sure. Like that's a great why? Because maybe it needs to be people like me and you that put the word out there, that do the podcast, that have the conversations. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just regular people.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like just the media doesn't really push that stuff either. How dangerous they are.
There was I was watching, I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was having a conversation with somebody, and if I can find it, I'll put it in here and kind of clip it so that people can see it. But they were saying that they were requesting Narcan, or I'm sorry, not Narcan, but fentanyl test kits, the ones that you were just talking about, and they got denied for them. It's a charity. It's a charity that was trying to distribute that with Narcan, so that way, and it might be the same one. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they were saying that they were having massive issues getting approved for these fentanyl test kits and putting them in like bars and things, so that if girls,
that's what I'm saying. Like it should just, it is harm production. We're not going to stop people from using drugs and making those choices. Yeah. Right. Now, like you have the other side of the tree over here. People are like, well, let's just make it legal. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but you're not going to stop people from using drugs, right? Mm-hmm. So like, let's do our part to make sure that that type of stuff is available and get the word out that like, hey, if you're going to decide to do cocaine, right? We live in Vegas.
Yeah, it's unrealistic to think it's not going to happen. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're going to make that decision, here's something that you could use to make sure you don't die, because that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. If there's fentanyl in your cocaine, you're going to fucking die.
And you can't tell if it's in there, bro. You can't see that.
Yeah. I think there's like a stigma, like, oh, like, I always came up like with me, like just you're a shitbag, you're a drug addict, you're not gonna be anything. Like that's kind of like some of the driving forces. Like when I did get clean, I was like, listen, hold my beer, guys, because watch me become the best lender in Vegas.
Do you think that Narcan should be as prevalent as epinephrine?
For sure.
Like EpiPens?
Yeah.
Planes, purses, cars.
Yeah, everything. I think Brock told me that like just with the harm production, like the death rate is down. The crazy part though is that the drug cartels are making the fentanyl even more powerful because it's a synthetic opiate, right? It's not from I'm pretty sure it's not from a poppy plant. They're making it, right? So they're making these new batches of like I think it's called xylazine is a new drug. It's like fentanyl and like some other crazy drug where Narcan's not working. And he was telling me they are like the death rate in Arizona has decreased, but it's taking anywhere from 5 to 6 Narcans to bring people back to life.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Who's got 6 Narcans?
I mean,
cops, if that.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Why do you
because the drugs are so powerful.
But why do you think that the cartel, I mean, they're killing their clientele at that point. You're doing damage to your business.
Because, I mean, dude, that's how it's always been, right? Like, when you're a drug addict, you want the best stuff, the most powerful stuff that's going to get you the highest as possible for the least amount of money.
So it's like dancing on the edge of high and death.
Yeah, I think they call them blues. Like they're stamped oxycodone pills, but filled with fentanyl. I think he was saying they're like $2, $5.
Jesus Christ.
Where when I was using oxycodone, it was $1 per milligram. So if
you're buying an 80, you're paying $80.
Yeah. And I'd have to do multiple of those a day. Well, I didn't. I chose to do multiple a day.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, your body thinks that you need it.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, we talked a little bit about how you're having that conversation with your children. We talked a little bit about how your parents have kind of addressed that with you. What was it like telling your wife?
I mean, I didn't have to tell my wife. My wife just kind of, I'll give you this. She is the only person ever in the history of mankind that I could come home and she'd be like, "You're high, bro."
Without even talking? Without
even talking to her. She said it like, you can tell it in my eyes when I'm high. And that's I swear, that's all. First, nobody would ever know. I've been high around family, friends. Nobody would ever suspect that I was on drugs. But her
couldn't get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say like I hid. I wasn't like, again, as I got older, it wasn't so gnarly with stuff. It would I'd go sober for a little bit and then I'd start using again and then it'd get really bad. And then I'd make some excuse on why I'm sick for a couple of days and I'd be sick. And so this just horrible cycle. So, I mean, I'm sure she picked up on that fairly quickly, you know, once we started getting more serious in getting married. But like, dude, I'm so blessed and grateful to have found my partner because, bro, she could have left me 100 times and she sticked with me. The one thing for her, like, she's not like, I need to help you, I need to fix you. It was more of like, I love you and here's the choice and I accept you for who you are. If you want to make that decision to get clean and have me and your kids, then make that decision. If not, like, she's good. She's a hustler. She has a good job. She don't need me. You know what I'm saying? So like that was one of the big motivating factors. Like I was like, oh dude, I got to figure this out. I can't do this. Yeah. I just can't take pills. I cannot take opioids. It is not okay. And that took me a long time to figure that out, but it's crazy too, is for so long I was like, dude, I am not an AA person. I am not an NA person. But there came a time where I was like, I didn't know what to do. And I knew I needed to change. Because I was either going to die or lose my family. And I remember Googling, like, I'm like, all right, let me give AA a shot. AA is for like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. And I remember because I was like newly into doing mortgages, right? Like I still worked with my partner. He never knew, you know what I'm saying? And so it came to a point where I'm like, God, I got to figure this out. And so I Googled like, AA work, is there a meeting, right? Can I go to that nobody would know I would go to because I didn't want to like let people know. And I remember I found this meeting at 12 o'clock every day from 12 to 12:30. It was called Brunch for Lunch off Rainbow at this place called Solutions Recovery, which isn't there anymore. But I went there and I don't know what it was, but I went there and I sat down and I didn't talk. I didn't give my opinion. I listened to people that have been like, there were some dudes in there that have been sober for like 30 years. And I just was like, oh, fuck, I could probably do this. That was the first time ever. And then I went all in on recovery. I went all in on like, I'm going to do this. I went and found a sponsor. Like I had to figure out, you got to figure out like, why do you do the things that you do? Where does that come from? You know what I'm saying? So like when I say, you got to be willing to do the work, though, is what I'm saying. But for the most part, it's crazy because I was just always so anti-AA and I'll just stop that's really what saved my life and has continued to keep me to be sober, because I'm coming up on 6 years in like a month.
Congrats, man.
Thanks, man.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So as we start to wrap things up a little bit, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your career. But before we jump into that, I think that it's really important that we cover a couple of things. Number one, for people that are in the grip of addiction right now, 3 steps to get out of it.
3 steps to get out of it.
Just the first 3, not necessarily just the 3 steps to finish the whole process. But what are the first 3 things that they can do?
Fair enough. That's a good question, because I mean, addictions are different for everybody. First step is just admitting that you have a problem. Second step would be being open to change, and third step, finding something, a program, a person, a mentor that is going to guide you through the path to get to where you want to go. But the first step, number 1 step, is admitting you have a problem. And it's it took me a long time to admit that I was powerless over drugs, powerless over opioids, because I'm such a strong-willed person and I'll just do it myself, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't work like that.
Okay. Are there any resources here in the city that you're aware of that are pretty
strong?
Dude,
a lot of resources. So involving myself in the recovery community. So my buddy Dave Marlin, which is crazy because I got sober. So he owned Solutions Recovery.
The one that you were talking about before.
Yeah. And then full circle, this ended up getting sold. And then my neighbor, Phil, I found out he's in recovery. And one day he's like, hey bro, you want to come with me to this dude's house? He's in recovery too. And he owns a nonprofit here called Vegas Stronger. They're doing a charity thing. I'm like, cool. And full circle, that's how I met Dave Marlin. Dave Marlin owns Solutions Recovery. And I'm like best buds with this dude. But this is the guy in Vegas with all of the resources. So Vegas Stronger, they have a huge building downtown. It's off like Washington. I'm not 100%. You could Google it and find it. But they're a nonprofit. They provide addiction services. They do a lot of they bring homeless people. They get homeless people off the streets. They get them into rehab. They literally have everything in there. And that dude has literally been the most stand-up dude. I'll give you an example. I had a family member that was using fentanyl, and we had talked sometime. He's like, I want to get sober. Cool. I literally called Dave. I'm like, hey, I got to get my cousin into a treatment facility. He's like, I got you. Bring him down. We were down there in an hour. I had him in a facility same day before 5 o'clock.
Holy shit.
So the resources, because that's always the biggest thing is somebody I want to get sober. And then it's how do I get sober? Where do I go? Trying to find a rehab to go to. It's not that easy. You know what I'm saying? So I lean heavy with Vegas Stronger. Okay. Dave Marlin, yeah.
Perfect. So we'll tag that into the podcast so that way they have their website and all the resources inside of the description there, bro. But now let's jump over to the mortgage side of things. Where can people find you to get a mortgage for their home?
I'm all over, bro. Just Google Jeff Dragovich. You'll find nothing but good stuff for me.
And we'll throw the links in there and stuff.
I appreciate that.
What do you think right now people are most worried about that they shouldn't be worried about when it relates to mortgage?
I mean, you got to stay off the news. Everybody listens to the news, and it's not a good time to buy, and the rates are high, and those are all true, right? But it's different for everybody. I feel like most people will push. You got to buy a house. It's a good time to buy. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I'm just a regular dude. I connect with my clients. I bring them in. We look at the complete picture. I give them all the facts because good people deserve good advice, right?
100%.
And then I let them make the decision if it makes sense for them. I feel like 99% of people, when you can deliver the facts to their own specific, unique situation and the decisions they can make, and then you allow them to make those decisions because they have full autonomy, people make good decisions.
True. Well, awesome, man. Well, we're coming up to the end of the podcast, man. Is there anything that you want to say as kind of like a final message? We covered a lot of stuff. We really did. And I think that, first of all, your ability to come out of addiction is going to show a lot of other people that they can do it too, and giving them hopefully the courage to make that decision and really address the fact that they have a problem.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate you having me on. So listen, I just, if you're wanting to get sober or you're wanting, thinking about bettering your life, I would much rather take a phone call from you at 3 o'clock in the morning and listen to some bullshit you got going on than have to go to your funeral. So I just throw myself out there. I'm always available. I'm an open book. We do find love. We do find financial freedom. We do find happiness if you want it. But you got to be willing to do the work. So that's my message. helping people in recovery fills my cup up, right? That's what I love to do. But you got to be willing to say, hey, please help me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I got you, bro.
Honestly, appreciate that. And for those of you that are looking for resources, go ahead and check the description down below. We'll have the resources for the facilities and the organizations that Jeff was talking about. And if you want to get in touch with Jeff Dragovich to look over your options as far as how it might or might not be the best time for you to buy a house or refinance your house, he's got you. He's one of the best in the city, and that's why we're doing this interview. So again, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you.
Love you, bro.
That's the story.
Cool.